If you are fresh out of high school or a senior in high school, this video is for you. A lot of you have asked me to talk about life after high school and what you should be thinking about when you're coming out of high school. And I feel like most of these things are pretty applicable for college as well, coming out of college. So if that's your case as well, stay tuned. But let's talk about some of the things that I wish somebody would have had me focus on fresh out of high school. First and foremost, I want to talk about money. Money is most likely what's going to cause most people the trouble in the long run in their adulthood life. That is usually the source of many issues for many adults. So this time in your life is a great time to start preparing yourself so that you don't face so many issues down the line. Now, I know what you may be thinking, Dorothy, I'm fresh out of high school. I'm not making any money. Whether you have a job or not, it's important now that you're taking the steps to really start learning about money and how you can help yourself in the future. If you're anything like me and most people, you probably didn't learn anything good about money from either your parents or school. You probably didn't learn much. If you did, that's great. But most of us have to really teach ourselves about financial wisdom. And there are so many sources now available to us for free to learn about it, but it's even better if you start off younger. Let me tell you why. Something you've probably heard around compound interest. And it is because the sooner you get started, the better off you end up in the long run. You can literally end up with millions more dollars because you started at 18 with your saving and investing as opposed to starting at 25, right? That's one of the reasons why it's really important for you to get your money in order. Let me talk about a couple other things. One thing I want to say I wish somebody told me is stop wasting money on shitty ass friends. If I had saved every single dollar I spent on friends that treated me like shit to give them experiences that they couldn't afford, and when they weren't really even that great to me, or buying them gifts when they never got me anything, things like that, that money is so much better off going towards things that you like and towards your future and just things that serve their purpose. Genuinely, I wish I had saved so much of the money I spent on shitty ass friends just trying to almost buy their love with experiences and gifts. So if you're like me in that regard, cut it out. Another great thing about learning about money in this time is that you have no responsibilities right now. You're likely not responsible to anyone. Maybe you have younger siblings or family you feel responsible for, but for the most part, you likely don't have children. Maybe you do. And you likely don't have a partner that's a financial obligation. So you usually don't have any financial obligations coming out of high school, which means you are living with the lowest expenses that you have right now, which is great because it means all the income that you have coming in, if you do set yourself up for some income, then you don't really have a lot of expenses that's counteracting the income and you could really roll in the dough. The simplest thing that you can do to get started with your financial journey right now is to start a Roth IRA and start putting money into it right now. Even if it's a small amount. I'm talking, you could put $10 in it a month and that would make me happy just that you're doing it. You can put a cap of $6,000 a year into it. I know a lot of you can't even think about that type of money right now, but even if you're putting in $10 a month, it'll pay off in the long run. I want you to educate yourself on Roth IRAs and putting money in them because what they are is tax-free money that accumulates with compound interest. So if you're starting now at this very young age that you are, you can really accumulate literally free money for yourself down the long run just off of sheer interest from time. But I want you to look into more videos about getting into the specifics of it so that way you really know how to get the most out of it by investing what then you put into your Roth IRA. So I highly recommend, there's one thing that you do, we're wrapping up this money convo, but learn about money. I know it's scary. Trust me, you're gonna have to learn one way or the other, and it's better that you learn with intention rather than learning from mistakes like I did when I got myself into $15,000 worth of credit card debt, having to pay off $35,000 worth of student loans, being scammed by numerous people, Trust me, you're gonna have to learn in either way, and it's better you learn in advance to prepare yourself so you don't come across those mistakes. There are so many amazing financial books out there, audiobooks, podcasts, and if you would like some recommendations, let me know, all right? Start learning. Second thing I wanna talk about is your friends. One thing about this time in your life when you're coming out of school is that you start to realize that making friends and maintaining friends is a lot harder than people talk about, because usually when you're in school, you're making friends just off of vicinity. You're making friends that are in the same class as you or that go to the same school as you, people that are around you, and then you befriend them. But going into adulthood, you're not really in situations where you're making friends from just the people around you. You actually have to step outside of your comfort zone and create friendships with people. Another thing they don't warn you about is what it is like maintaining friendships once you're out of school. It gets weird and hard. Adulting is a very inconsistent scheduling mess. And you start to realize that when you aren't just seeing your friends every day of the week because you're at school together, you actually have to make it work to see each other and plan and sort out your schedules together. And it's not easy. And something I also want to tell you is that you may find that you distance from some of the friends that you maybe had in high school, and that's okay. You're gonna have people that you were maybe tight with because you were just in the vicinity of them a lot and you liked being around them as a distraction when you were in school, but maybe you don't find that they're as conducive to the lifestyle that you're trying to create for yourself, and so you start to distance, and that's okay. You're going to make so many different friends from so many different pathways of life down the line, and don't fret your heart about high school friends. Trust me. But it's also your first learning lesson on practicing maintaining friendships and communicating, setting up scheduling, because trust me, it only gets harder as you get more responsibilities in adulthood. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. College. I don't know whether or not you're thinking about college, and I just want to briefly touch on the pros and cons of both and kind of ask you a couple questions so you could start thinking about what you may want to do. I did go to college. I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, which is an acting conservatory. I got my associate's degree in occupational studies, and my occupation is acting. So I went to an art school, a drama school, if you would, a conservatory. And so it didn't really feel like real college. I didn't take any math, science, anything like that. It was all acting related, and I had no hesitation about going there because I knew it was what I wanted to do fresh out of high school. However, yeah, I did go into about $40,000 of student loan debt, which I'm still paying off to this day and hoping that they forgive it for some reason. But I do not regret that choice at all, going to that school. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and taking on the loan was a choice that I just had to make because my parents were not in a position to pay off that kind of college money, and I got my max scholarships that I could and still had to pay that. So it was 40 grand compared to the 90 grand that it could have been. If you know what you may want to start pursuing, then think about your field. Is this something that requires college? There are certain career fields that require you to have a degree in that thing, right? But there are plenty of fields that don't necessarily require it. So you got to think about if this is something that is actually required of you or not. And if it is not required of you, are there educations outside of a traditional college setting that can give you the education that you need in order to succeed in the field? What I mean by that is there's so many sources on the internet now of different ways that we can learn things. There's so many individual classes that you can take online that are more specific to maybe exactly what you want to do, rather than taking a whole 4-year university experience for something that you could have maybe honed in on individually outside of school. So really ask yourself these questions if it's something that's really a necessity, or with all of the sources available to you with the internet and everything that we have now, is it something that you can go without? I do think education is very important, but I don't think education necessarily has to come from college. I think there's so many different ways now that we can educate ourselves to to become successful in many different ways. So I don't necessarily think college has to be for everyone. Really think about, for what you're thinking about pursuing, is it necessary? Also, the money is something you do have to consider. Unless you're somebody who's getting a paid off college ride from your parents, take it. You know, if you're getting it fully paid off, take it. But most of us don't have that. And if you're having to go into student loan debt, that's something very serious to consider. Sometimes it takes people their entire lives to pay off that amount. And while I don't feel that it's something that feels as pressuring on me like credit card debt was, because the interest isn't as high, it's still something that sits underneath your skin. Owing that much money is not an easy feat. And it is something that sits at the back of your mind as you're dealing with everything else. So it's not a lightweight to carry on, and something that should really be considered. The obvious question is, can you get scholarships? Figure out, there's so many different ways to research what scholarships you can get, and do your best, if you decide to pursue it, on getting every single one you possibly can. All right? I'm not here to tell you whether you should go to college or not. That's a decision you have to make for yourself. But I do have plenty of people in my life that went to college for one thing, and 2 years in, they realized they didn't want to do that thing, and then ended up getting a degree in something for no reason when they never used it, and ended up in a lot of student loan debt. So what I want to say to you is, don't feel rushed or pressured to decide. And I know that feels contrary to literally everything everyone is telling you right now. You're probably 17, 18, and everybody is telling you that you need to have your entire life figured out. That I think it's so ridiculous that coming out of high school is when we're meant to decide what we're doing for the rest of our lives. That's so ridiculous. How is any 17-year-old gonna decide that? Don't let people get to you with that pressure. Just know that you will figure it out, and it's an ongoing process of figuring it out. Even if you think you know right now, you might change your mind down the line, and that's okay. So think long and hard about it, and don't feel pressured to get into anything because of what other people are telling you to do. I know there's a lot of parents out there that are pressuring their children to get into certain fields. If you choose something just because somebody else is telling you to do it, you will likely resent them in the long run and end up unhappy. It is what it is. So really think long and hard about what you want to do, what will make you happy, and allow yourself to separate what you want for a second from what everybody else wants from you, and really think about it. I know it can be really tough and really scary to want to go after something that people think is not what you should do. And just know that I'm always a supporter of doing what you believe is right for you. I do believe in hearing people out and what they have to say, but I also think that when people tell you what you should do, they're projecting their own limitations of what they think they can do onto you. And if somebody doesn't believe that you can do something, if you want to be an actress rather than be a doctor, the idea is that they are trying to protect you, but in the long run, it just means you'll likely end up resenting them because you never did what was speaking to your heart, or at least tried it. So think about that. Something that is so exciting about this time that you're in your life is that you can try everything. This is the perfect time to try every little hobby, every little passion, go to any place you wanted to go. All the things you've ever thought about trying or doing, now is your time to do it, to make it happen, to go see the places you want to see, to try pottery, to try painting, whatever it is, because that is how you're going to discover the different things that you really enjoy and that you're passionate about, and that will really serve you in the long run. And this time of your life is great because you can take so much risk and still end up okay. This time in your life, you can kind of do things that may be a little risky because you have a lot of cushion to fall back on. So this is the time to try everything. Try all of those new hobbies you've been wanting to try. Try the martial arts you wanted to get into, all of it. And also hang out with new people. And now you get to explore what it's like being friends with people in different groups and that have different lifestyles. And this is the moment that you really get to explore who you are and what you like. And that's really exciting. This is a core time for you to start your self-development process. I think reading self-development books, listening to self-development audiobooks is beneficial for everyone, and we should all do it. Maybe it's podcasts, whatever it is, your thing that works for you, that you like to do. And let me tell you why. Because you're preparing your mind for the years to come. Again, like I said with the finances, either way, you're gonna have to learn. And it's better that you don't learn from the mistakes, but rather from the preparation that you did in advance. Again, there's just so many sources of books and things that we can learn about how to strengthen our mentality and how to have good habits and how to break bad habits, how to have mental strength and emotional intelligence. These are things that are literally key to your well-being as an adult. I promise you, life only throws more and more stressors on you down the line. So if you build that foundation for yourself, for your mental health, for your strength very early on, then you have that carrying you as you move forward with the different tasks that may come up in life. You're prepared. Start now. Why not? Become obsessed with glowing up. Become obsessed with becoming the best version of yourself, because now's the time. I read this book that I really enjoyed called The Defining Decade, and I think all of you should read it. And she talks a lot about how your 20s can really set you up for your 30s. And I think like late teens is kind of the same thing. And a lot of time we think, oh, our 20s just fuck around and we'll get our shit together in our 30s. But there's so many little things that you can do throughout your late teens and your early 20s that are fairly simple to do, but will really set you up for success in your 30s. So I really recommend you read that book and just really focus on like, this is the moment of my life that I get to set the foundation for how my life will be moving forward. And I want to go into it feeling prepared and ready and with a strong head on my shoulders. Something I want to throw in here is to be wary of very strong committed relationships. Now, don't come for me if you are in a committed relationship and you're loving it. Hey, to each their own. But what I want to warn some of you of is this time in your life when you're fresh out of high school or maybe fresh out of college, you feel like you're an adult for the first time, where you're getting to make your own choices. And this time is very susceptible for people to jump really fast into a committed relationship because they are ready for the adult experience. You're ready for the marriage, you're ready for the kids, or you think you are, right? Because you're ready to be an adult, you're ready to make your own decisions. And it's very easy to jump into something that's not so good for you, but you're blinded by this fantasy of what you think it could be in your head as opposed to the reality of what it actually is. And I'm telling you this from my own personal experience. For me, it was fresh out of college and getting engaged to somebody that was a super narcissist, toxic person. And I was so excited about like becoming an adult that I was so dead set in the decision I was making to be with him. And even though everybody was telling me not to be with him, I was like, no, this is my first adult decision and it's right. So I just want to tell you, be wary of committed relationships right now. If you're in one and you're loving it, fine. But just remember that this is a fundamental time for your growth. And when you're in a committed relationship, unless you guys are active supporters of each other's growth, which is what's very important, sometimes it can be very inhibiting for you. And you stay within your comfort zone in this relationship. And when there's so many things that you could be doing and exploring and learning about yourself, you're kind of stuck in a pattern in this relationship. So I just want you to be wary of that. Take it with a grain of salt, all right? The last thing I will say to you is don't worry about what you're doing for the rest of your life. I know that's what everybody wants you to figure out right now. Don't. You can't. You literally can't. You could try your best guess and you'll likely still be wrong. Don't worry about what you're doing for the rest of your life. Just worry about what you're doing right now and the choices you're making right now in this moment that will either benefit you or hold you back in the future. And think about those. Think about what you're doing today in this minute. Don't worry about what you're doing for the rest of your life, because no matter how hard you try to guess, you're likely not gonna figure it out on the first try. I love you guys so much, and don't fret. You'll figure it out along the way, all right? New videos every Friday. Be sure to give it a like, subscribe, comment, do the whole 9. It greatly helps my channel, and I appreciate you guys so much. Let me know what other content you want to see from me, and I'll see you on the next one.